Please return to your workstation. Dr. Thompson, please return to your workstation. Dr. Thompson, please return to your workstation.
The intercom echoed. It was another Friday night, one that I wouldn't be able to enjoy since I had to work. Although it wasn't the worst job I could have in the plant. I'm employed in a rather large company that makes medical equipment. There are about 14 production lines in the large concrete building that run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My position is driving around on a riding forklift we refer to as a horse. I bring pallets of supplies that the lines need and to take finished pallets of product away. Pretty simple stuff, but 12 hours of it takes its toll on you. And on the night shift at that, even after 2 years of doing the same thing, I'm lucky if I can manage a meager 6 hours of sleep while the sun bleeds through my blackout curtains. Still, it pays well, much better than any other place in my small town. So, like the rest of my coworkers, I plaster on that fake smile every shift and do my best to make it through the next morning. Accidents would happen, of course. Usually nothing major, but once in a great while, somebody would screw up so badly, they had to make a safety video about them. It was a few months ago when Jerry, one of our mechanical engineers, was up on a ladder fixing a product jam on the ceiling conveyor. He had just about got it straightened out when his weight shifted wrong and the ladder came out from below him. This wouldn't have been so bad were it not for the wedding ring on his finger. It got caught between some metal and it came sliding off, along with the skin of his ring finger. Needless to say, production in the area came to a stop. Staff that were trained for medical emergencies came rushing over to the Holland Man and worked to try and stop some of the bleeding. There was a lot. Seeing the skin still hanging from the conveyor belt like a bloody used contraceptive, one of the staff popped up the ladder and made sure to grab it, as if it could be sewed back on. That was a pretty messy day for our little factory, and since then, absolutely no jewelry is allowed on the floor. Instances like this are rare though, and usually the worst would be a scrape or a slammed finger. Of course, we had to watch the new safety video and go through some more computer training on the situation, but things went back to normal. I drove around on my horse, listening to the intercom call people back to their workstations for me to bring various lines, certain products, or once in a while some joker who thought they were being funny play music from their phone on it. It was last week that the next serious accident happened. Much worse than someone having the skin of their finger sloughed off. David from the parts department was in the process of lifting a pallet of motors up to his area on the second floor. They were planning on installing a few new lines in the near future, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, Brandon Thompson was walking through the hall where David was, and like an idiot, decided to walk directly under the raised pallet. There was a lot that happened at that point, but it was so fast I couldn't really make sense of it all. I'm pretty sure I disassociated as I looked on. People came running over, more people screamed. My throat was on fire from throwing up, and poor David slipped on some of Brandon as he tried to get out from the forklift. Someone put their arm around mine and pulled me away toward the front offices. I was allowed to go home, but would have to write up an incident report in the next day or two. The whole thing messed me up pretty bad, but doing that seemed to help me out quite a bit. A week went by, and some of us were able to return to work. Others, mostly good friends of Brandon, stayed home, still grieving from the loss. I didn't know Brandon that well, and I was thankful for that. Still, every time I see the now much cleaner spot on the floor where he died, I couldn't help but feel bad for the guy. Work went on pretty much as usual. Lines would need stuff brought to them, and finished pallets would need taken away. The intercom would spout off telling people to return to their workstation, and the odd song would ring out. I was getting ready to go to my first break when I heard it.
Private Thompson, please return to your workstation. Private Thompson, please return to your workstation.
What the hell? I thought to myself. I put it out of my mind and made my way to the cafeteria when I heard it again.
Private Thompson, please return to your workstation. Private Thompson, please return to your workstation.
I saw David in the cafeteria and sat in the seat across from him. What's up with that? I asked. He chewed his sandwich thoughtfully before answering. It's just a last call. Kind of a way of honoring Brandon and stuff like that. It's a little weird, don't you think? No, man. Wouldn't you want people to remember you after you died? I guess so. I don't really think about it, to be honest. Well, best get used to it. We're probably going to be hearing that for the next week or so. And so it was. The entire night, different voices from across the plant called out for a coworker that would never come. At least I thought. Tonight has been a real cluster. No accidents, thank God. But part of me wishes it was that simple. The first half of the night, I drove around doing my regular rounds, hearing people call out for our dead coworker. It was before lunch when I heard the commotion, so I drove down towards the new side of the building. Footprints led the way, brown and muddy. They were dotted in strange gapes, some close, some far apart like that of a drunken dancer. Ahead of me stood a large crowd, and I got off the horse. Making my way through, I saw something that made me sick for a second time. Standing in the ring of people was Brandon. One good leg seemed to hold most of his weight, as glistening white bones snapped through the crushed meat of the other. His arm dangled from what remained of sutures made by the mortuary, I would guess. What remained of his destroyed head and face stared at everyone in a glare of anger. With a mostly toothless mouth, he drew in a shaky, wet breath.
This place is a bunch of bullshit. I can't even die without being called back into work.
After saying this, the body simply slumped over and he left us for a second time.